Like most American females growing up in the 80s and 90s, I watched the Oprah Winfrey Show religiously. And I felt like I connected with Oprah on a couple different levels. One, she loved dogs, just like I do. And two, she wanted to have something called an aha moment. And she claimed we all could have one as well. Now, for those of you who don't know what an aha moment is, it was actually put in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary thanks to Oprah, making it so popular. And so the definition reads, a moment of sudden realization, inspiration, insight, recognition, and comprehension. Now that doesn't seem so difficult, does it? I didn't think so. But then Eckhart Tolle jumped in with Oprah, and he made it a little bit more than that. They decided it was actually when a spirit meets spirit, or some sort of spiritual awakening. Now, I had a bit of an issue with that because I am not the most spiritual person in the world. However, I am extremely competitive. So I decided that I would be able to have an aha moment by either negotiating spirituality out of the way or outwitting it. I wasn't quite sure. I also wanted to make sure that I had a really big aha moment. I didn't want to have one of those daily moments where you're driving down the street, you get caught in traffic, get to your appointment late, really aggravated, and then you realize that the universe is telling you that you need to practice your patience. No, that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for something earth-shattering, life-changing, that I wouldn't settle for less. So today I'm going to tell you about my aha moment and what that led to. First, I quit my job. Second, I started an animal rescue. Then I immersed myself in Indian culture, and I blew all my savings. Now, I wouldn't recommend that last point. So what happened? So in 2008, I was turning 40, and this moment hadn't arrived. I mean, I was happy-ish. I had a good job, house, tons of friends, snowboarding, living in Colorado. I mean, things really could have been worse. But I still had something gnawing at me, something that I felt like something bigger needed to happen. So then one day I was talking with a friend of a friend, didn't know this person, and he said, you know what you really need to do? You need to go to India because it will fuck with your head. Aha. So I didn't know if I had any sort of spiritual awakening at this point, but I did know that it was something that I had to do. So 6 months later, I went. Now, many of you are probably thinking, India is the land of yoga, meditation, gurus, it's so peaceful. So how crazy could this place really be? Well, let me be the first to enlighten you. While it may be all of the above, it is also the land of honking, pollution, dust, poverty, and limited personal space. It was a shock to everything my American psyche knew. However, the most shocking thing to me was the condition and the amount of dogs I saw living on the street. Every day I would see shaking, dying puppies. I would see dogs fighting for a scrap of food, and kind of no one seeming to care, and I didn't really understand it. However, my main concern was this dog that lived right near this preschool I was volunteering at. I would see him every day. He was missing fur, he had scabs, he was bloody, and I wasn't even quite sure if he was alive. I also had to keep the little kids from throwing rocks at him, and that was really hard for me. I also found myself on the ground daily, kind of crawling over to him, petting him, just to make sure he was still breathing. I started asking the people around there if there was anyone we could call, if there's anyone who could do anything to help this dog. And everyone, I was just completely met with indifference. I would get shrugs, ignored, head wobbles, you name it. And then one day, I actually met a man who told me that he gathered volunteers to give treatment to street animals in need. So I told him about the dog, and he promised me that he would get someone over there to treat the dog. So I thanked him. Much to my surprise, the next day when I went to my volunteer placement, I was greeted by one of the same locals who ignored me when I was asking questions about the dog. And he was very animated and excited. He was thanking me for sending the doctor. He told me he named the dog Tommy. He told me that his whole family was going to give the dog medicine and food until the dog was better. I was completely dumbfounded, happy, but completely dumbfounded. I didn't understand how just the week prior none of these people could give a crap. And then all of a sudden the dog had a name and they promised to care for it until it got better. I just didn't understand what was happening. Did I really have that much power to change somebody's mind about a stray dog, so much so that maybe it saved a life just by using my big mouth? Did India just fuck with my head? Yes, it did. I even took a photo of what I looked like that day to record how crazy I felt in that moment. And here I am. So I also hated to admit it, but at this point, I kind of had to agree with Eckhart Tolle and Oprah that you can't really have a moment like this without some sort of spiritual awakening inside of you. I still hesitate to say that word, but yes, it was a moment, the experience resonated deep down inside me, and it left me with a feeling that I really had to do something more. I was overtaken by this feeling. I mean, no questions asked, had to do something to help the conditions of the street dogs. And I wanted to teach the locals that the love of a dog is like no other. I had already met one local who wanted to help the stray dogs, which in turn convinced the whole family to help Tommy. Maybe we could keep repeating this action. So the competitive side of me teamed up with this brand new spiritual side, and together we went forward. And I trusted my gut for the first time in my life. After returning to the United States, things got a little shaky. I started telling my parents, my family, friends, what I wanted to do. And they all thought I was completely bonkers, that I had lost my mind on this trip to India. My new spiritual gut really didn't waver. I knew this was something I had to plow ahead with. However, my competitive side started wondering if I was capable. What the hell did I know about starting a charity in India? What did I know about saving dogs, animals of any kind? So Dale Carnegie, whose many a sales training I attended, has a great quote about fear. And it goes like this: inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So that's what I did. I stepped into fear and I went out and I got busy. So the question I always get asked most these days is how I ended up in India running an animal rescue. Well, now you know. Somehow I was capable to find the resources and the local people to help me. I discovered there were quite a few Indians that wanted to help the strays, but they just didn't know how to do it. So I was determined to support them in any way so that I could make them be the true agents of change in their own community. Here are some of their folks. Looking back at my experience with Tommy, I realized that the family learned that stray dogs can bring happiness, love, and affection if given food and care. That when you treat stray animals as part of the community as opposed to unwanted pests, that is when the magic happens. It is a realization that the stray animal population can be managed with compassion and with education instead of neglect and cruelty. In the past 9 years, I've seen this human canine experience multiply 1,000-fold due to our work. By encouraging people to feed strays, call us when they're sick, when they need a vaccine, when they need a sterilization surgery, a connection developed. So much so that today we now even have locals adopting these stray dogs as their pets. And here are some of those folks. We even have a stray dog, a rescue dog, who is now becoming famous on Instagram. His name is Suraj, and he pals around with the Bollywood actor Asif Basra. So today, I want to leave you with these three things. Be kind to strays. They don't ask to be stray, and you may just find a new best friend. Taking even the smallest step Asking the littlest question can lead to change. And yes, change can happen. And finally, I encourage all of you to take a step into fear and fuck with your head. You may just find your heart.